Bonsoir. Good
evening. This is the 8th launch of the year for Arianespace and the 6th for Ariane 5. Tonight we have with us two very important customers for Arianespace, EUTELSAT on the one hand, as EUTELSAT 21B will be the 26th satellite that will be launching for EUTELSAT, and Star One, as so far Arianespace has launched every Brazilian satellite. As you know, 2012 has been a busy year with the first Vega launch, 5 Ariane 5 launches and 1 Soyuz launch in French Guiana, and with a further launch of Ariane 5 coming up. This year has also been very good from a commercial standpoint, as since the start of the year our market share has remained clearly above the 50% mark, and 2012 is not over yet. But let's enjoy this latest launch, the 6th of the year for Ariane 5, Ariane 5 ICA, EUTELSAT 21B and Star One C3.
EUTELSAT 21B, Star One C3.
Greetings, everybody, wherever you may be, and welcome once again to French Guiana, the home of the Ariane family, for today's launch of Arianespace flight number 210. The sun is setting, the visibility is good, and we are ready for our 6th Ariane 5 flight of the year. You can see the green status panels on the left telling the story. Everything is go. The 66th Ariane 5 to fly from the space base tonight. Also the 210th mission since the first Ariane flew way back in 1979. Joshua Jampel here. I'll be joined soon by Claude Berna of Arianespace at about 9 minutes after liftoff, and we'll have his expert commentary for this international launch tonight, a satellite for Europe and another for Brazil. We were supposed to go yesterday, but we're delayed 24 hours due to high altitude winds, but all is well. We're coming to you, as always, live from the Jupiter Mission Control Center. A look at the launcher, 50 meters tall in 2 parts. They call them composites here. The lower composite consisting of the main stage and the boosters standing some 31 meters, roughly 2/3 of the height of the entire vehicle. The upper composite is the upper stage, which has, like the lower stage, a single cryogenic engine, the vehicle equipment bay, and the fairing, and inside the fairing, of course, the 2 satellites. We'll describe each in turn as it is functioning. Time to meet some of the key players who make the mission happen. This is Arianespace's flight director at the High Command, top management, Jean-Yves Le Gall there. With him, Patrick Loire, head of the Arianespace Kourou facilities. He's the first link with the launch base here locally. With him, Edward Perez, the Chief Technical Officer and the living technical memory of Arianespace. Should anything unexpected come up during the mission tonight, you'll see these gentlemen on the phones to their teams here at the base and back in Paris. Any decisions that have to be made will be made by them. We got a look at the launch vehicle a moment ago. We're going to go inside the fairing for a glimpse of our 2 passengers. You can see the logos on there, EUTELSAT and Star One. The upper passenger EUTELSAT, the heaviest at 5 tons. The upper passenger will be separated first, usually the heaviest one. Below EUTELSAT, you can see the black bell-shaped structure. That's called the Silda, a carrying structure. We'll talk more about that when Claude gets in here. And in the lower berth, Star One C3, the lighter satellite, you can see just over 3 tons. Want to say hi to our friends at EUTELSAT headquarters in Paris, also to Embratel in Rio, and to those of you watching on the internet. Hope you all enjoy the evening. Continuing our presentation of the players, the commercial side here, BEATRIZ ROMERO, project manager for EUTELSAT 21B with her customers. The project manager meets on a day-to-day basis with her customers, reviewing the status of the satellites. Arianespace offering customers a one-stop shop, a single interface. Our first film coming up, we're going to have a look at EUTELSAT, which will be presented by BEATRIZ ROMERO, the project manager.
EUTELSAT 21B.
EUTELSAT 21B is the 26th satellite launched by Arianespace for telecom operator EUTELSAT. Built by Thales Arianespace in Cannes, it's based on the Spacebus 4000 C3 platform. EUTELSAT and Arianespace have developed a long and fruitful relationship over the last 27 years. More than half of all EUTELSATs have been launched with the various versions of the Ariane European launch vehicle. As for me, I'll be glad to work with EUTELSAT again as project manager for the 2 other satellites in our pipeline. We wish to thank EUTELSAT for their loyalty and trust, and we shall meet again for the upcoming EUTELSAT 25B launch campaign.
That 25B campaign due on Ariane in 2013, there's another EUTELSAT planned for 2014. Our second passenger, Star 1C3, and the manager for Arianespace is Michael Calleri, and his customers, Star 1, built by Orbital Sciences Corporation of Virginia. Over to Jean-Marc Durand now, Arianespace's mission director for our next film on our second passenger.
Arianespace is proud to launch Star 1C3, the latest in a series of 9 Brazilian satellites, all launched by Arianespace since 1985. The satellite was built by Orbital. It's equipped with 28 C-band channels covering South America and 16 Ku-band channels covering Brazil and the Andean countries. It arrived in French Guiana on October the 12th, was integrated on the launch vehicle on the 30th, only 18 days later. It was a great pleasure to work with the Brazilian team I had met in 2000 when we launched BrazilSat B4. We want to thank BrazilSat and Star 1 for their trust and loyalty. Thanks also to the operational teams who once again proved how flexible they can be.
In a moment, you're going to be hearing the DDO, the Range Operations Manager, sitting next to this gentleman here. He's going to call out the 7-minute mark, which will be the beginning of what they call the synchronized sequence.
Top. À 0-7 minutes.
All right, you heard him call that out. This is the final part of the final countdown now, and during these 7 minutes, the launcher becomes autonomous. Power is passing from the ground, which controls everything now, to the onboard computers, which will control everything afterward. The DDO tonight, Jean-Marc Bourjade of the CSG. Beside him, you saw Jean-Marc Durand of Arianespace. The DDO will call out confirmation of certain milestones before and after liftoff. They're sent to him from the various services across the base. There's a standard order of operations for every launch campaign, and in our next film, you'll see how Ariane 5 is assembled. The various elements of Ariane 5 that are built in Europe come to French Guiana by boat, then are brought by road to the launcher integration building, and here they're put together. The 2 solid boosters are moved to the launcher integration building, and the upper stage is mated atop the first stage, and Ariane is then transferred on her launch table to the final assembly building, where she'll be made complete by addition of the 2 satellites. EUTELSAT 21B and Star 1C3 arrived by cargo jet. In separate satellite campaigns, they are prepared in dedicated buildings at the space base. Their vital systems are tested and their tanks filled with the fuel needed for their missions. When this is done, the passengers can be mated on the launcher. Daily meetings coordinate all pre-launch operations and oversee this final part of the campaign under the direction of the Launch Operations Manager. Inside the final assembly building, the 2 satellites are put in place atop the Ariane 5 inside the fairing. These operations are carried out under the supervision of Arianespace and the satellite customer teams. EUTELSAT 21B was placed in the upper position, Star 1C went in the lower berth. The 2 passengers are now ready for their trip into space. The day before launch, Ariane takes her last earthly ride, 3 kilometers on a rail track, out to her final position on the pad. And that's where she's waiting with just under 5 minutes to go on the pad. Inside Jupiter, other dramatis personae responsible for the mission, the satellite managers now, here on the EUTELSAT side, they're responsible for the chronology. They decide if their satellite is ready for launch, following the campaign and its preparation as manager, meeting with their teams, giving the okays for each stage of their satellite's preparation. We are in the middle of this, what we said is the synchronized sequence. Professionals here always say that these final 7 minutes are the most intense moment of the entire launch campaign, with about 1,000 things to check and verify and monitor. Arianespace, of course, will not authorize liftoff unless everything is right. Satellite mission directors on the other side now for Star 1C3. We'll be hearing from Marcelo Lavrado later on. Less than 4 minutes before launch, intense concentration. Tonight represents long months, years sometimes of work for many of these people. All across the base, everyone very attentive as we approach liftoff. Europe's space effort is a three-way affair among the European Space Agency, the French National Space Agency, and Arianespace. You find them all here in Jupiter, along with the customers. Another place that's very busy tonight is in the launch zone, as you can imagine, where the launch management teams are working under the direction of this man, the COL, the Launch Operations Manager. The COL and his people are at this moment going over all the final checks and verifications on all parts of the launch system. They're closer to the pad than we are here in Jupiter, about 1 kilometer away. We're about 13, 14 kilometers away from here in Mission Control. These men and women coordinated the launcher campaign. They're monitoring the countdown right now as we speak. And they have, in fact, been working pretty much nonstop since Ariane 5's transfer to the pad. All that under the direction of the COL, and all about 200 people, 3 Arianespace managers. Once the vehicle has left the pad, their work's done. They can go home. All is going according to plan here at the space base tonight, and we know because the green status panels on the left tell us so. These are a real-time summary of the different services provided by the base, and we check them from time to time before liftoff. The panels are a go, no-go, green-red resume of everything it takes to launch. Green means okay, red means the opposite. It's very simple. If we get a red anywhere, it means somebody, someplace has found something not quite right, and we stop the countdown. Coming up on 2 minutes until liftoff, and very soon the guests here in Jupiter are going to be stepping outside to watch the launch. There are 2 balconies here with a view of the launch pad, which is, as we mentioned, 13 kilometers away, and you get a good view of liftoff. This split-screen shot is one of the last things you're going to see. Take a minute and just explain. This is a liquid hydrogen on the left. You saw liquid oxygen on the right. They are the propellant feeder arms going into the upper stage. You can see them there, the yellow bars in the middle of the screen going from the tower to the upper stage. These arms are part of the ground equipment and part of the launch table. The upper stage needs to be filled up to the last minute because its cold propellant evaporates in the heat. When I say cold, liquid oxygen minus 180 degrees, liquid hydrogen minus 250 degrees. They boil off, need to be constantly refilled, so we do that up to the last minute. You'll hear the DDO, who is going to call out the 1 minute mark, and we'll be into the final 60 seconds.
Top H0-1 minute.
All that's left to explain is the ignition sequence. Here's what to watch for. The sequence begins when the cryogenic arms, you saw them a moment ago, they'll swing back at -5 seconds. At 0, the DDO will call out allumage, which is ignition, and the main engine will light up. But we don't lift off, not quite yet. You got to count to 7 for 7 seconds. The computers are checking the performance in the main engine while it's burning on the ground. They check it twice to confirm it. Better to do this on the pad than once we're airborne in case they want to change anything or stop the procedures. If all is well, then and only then, the computers give the order to light the boosters. You listen to the DDO call out the final 10 seconds.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage Vulcain. Allumage EAP, décollage.
Well, the cryogenic arms swung open right on time, triggering the ignition sequence. Did you count to 7? At 18:05 local, right on time, Ariane 5 began her mission, lifting off perfectly, thundering off the ground here in French Guiana, beginning mission number 6 for this year, carrying EUTELSAT 21B and Star 1C3. She's rising into the night sky here above French Guiana. Fine shots, as always, beautifully impressive for the people on the observation sites and on the balconies here and around the base. Right now, Ariane weighs 774 tons, 774 tons at liftoff. She's burning 5 tons of fuel every second, 2.5 tons in each booster. Behind me, you can hear the DDO saying everything is all right. The main stage is also at the same time burning another 300 kilos of fuel per second. Ariane now following the program in the onboard computer, which is in the vehicle equipment bay in the second stage, which gives all the orders, including stage separations, which we'll soon begin to see. We're in the first of 4 flight phases. The first 3 are powered. The last is not. We'll describe each in turn and in detail so you can follow Ariane as she heads east across the Atlantic, where she'll separate the satellites after having passed over Africa. The flight phases, the first flight phase now, the main engine and the boosters. The boosters are going to burn another 10 seconds roughly, and you'll see them flame out on the screen. Then the main engine burns alone. Then the upper stage burns alone. That looks like the flame out of the boosters. And the DDO has called out the confirmation of that. You can see the 2 boosters on the upper part of the screen and the orange flames of the 2 boosters. And the white flame is the main engine, the composite of Ariane, continuing to burn. The boosters will fall 500 kilometers from shore in a protected area, French Guiana in part chosen as a base for its opening on the water, posing no threat to local population. On the left of your screen, you see the cursor climbing up the line there. There are actually 2 lines. One is the real-time trajectory. The other is the optimal trajectory. And as long as one is superimposed on the other, we're right where we should be. Below that, 2 lines, A and V. A is altitude. We're over 100 kilometers. V is velocity. Our speed now approaching 230 kilometers per second. We need roughly around 9 kilometers per second to inject the satellites, so keep your eyes on the numbers there. Both the first and second stages using cryogenic propellant. Both have single engines. We're coming up on fairing jettison now. The DDO has called out confirmation of that. It's in 2 halves. There's one half that's out of camera range. The fairing protects the payload from shocks during Ariane's ascent through the atmosphere, and we don't need that protection anymore because we're out of the atmosphere, and we don't need the 500 kilos. The Vulcan engine, roughly 50 centimeters square, I should say, weighing 250 kilos, generates enough power to launch Ariane 5, roughly equal to a pair of French high-speed trains, if you know the TGV system. Space base here has become a world reference for professionalism. State-of-the-art facilities, the global space industry finding everything it needs here in French Guiana. Low population density, we mentioned. Nearness to the equator, which allows a launch to benefit from the Earth's rotation to get to orbit more quickly. No hurricanes or earthquakes. Even hills where radar can be installed to follow the launcher. Up next, a profile of Joanna Halimi on her job as launch site's operator.
My name is Joanna Halimi. I'm 30 years old and I have been with Arianespace for the past 5.5 years. I studied engineering at the Belfort Montbéliard Technology College and worked for Thales Alenia Space for 1.5 years. I wanted to work for Arianespace, so I sent off an application. I was called in for the interviews and was given the job. My work consists of 2 different activities, one which is year-round and one which is specific to the launch campaigns. My regular job is to be in charge of the energy operations and maintenance contracts for the Ariane, Soyuz and Vega launch complexes. I am the technical authority and must validate the operations and maintenance plans and on-site operations carried out by the energy teams. I also follow up any anomalies that may have occurred, and I check that all the operations have been carried out so that our installations are ready for the launch campaigns. During the launch campaign, I have some specific duties. When you begin at Arianespace, you get the training that will allow you to be put in charge of specialities such as pyrotechnics or upper section electrics or the command and control systems of Ariane and Soyuz, and also to become an assistant on all the launch sites. Today, we are in the process of connecting the thermal batteries on the solid booster. During stage separation, the distancing rockets will ignite. The solid boosters will move away, and these batteries will provide the energy required to swivel the nozzle at the end of the thrust period and prevent a collision between the SRBs and the cryogenic main stage. After connecting the batteries at the final assembly building, we have to check that they have been properly connected from the CDL3. We check that the installation and continuity of the equipment is correct. This job brings me into contact with many different people. I can work with French, German, or Swiss teams if I am working on Ariane, depending on what I'm doing. But when I'm working on the upper composite, I can meet people from all over the world. And obviously, when I'm at the Soyuz launch site, I work with Russian teams. Therefore, I am in this way absorbed into different cultures and learn many interesting technical facts, and it is also very enriching from a human point of view. What I love about my job is that it is varied, as I work on 3 different launch sites, Ariane, Vega, and Soyuz, and it allows me to meet lots of different people from different countries. Working for Arianespace is above all exciting from a human point of view, and it also allows me to meet fascinating technical challenges.
While you were watching, that was the latest in our ongoing series of space profiles. While you were watching that, we were picked up by our first downrange tracking station over the border in Brazil, a place called Natal. The first station is here in Kourou. It's called Galileo, 15 kilometers behind Jupiter, where we are, atop the Montagne des Pères. Galileo sees Ariane for 9 minutes before the vehicle disappears over the horizon, and it's picked up by the Natal station. That's how the downrange system works. Brazil's Department of Defense runs the station for CNES in an agreement with ESA. All of Arianespace's trajectory has been designed, of course, to be followed from the ground, whether by land or by sea. The launcher is, as we speak, sending a radar and telemetry back to a network of stations, roughly 5 or 6 of them, and they keep constant watch on the health of her vital systems. Their antennas are picking up the signals and following the process, recording over 1,500 parameters, motor ignitions, shutdown, stage separations, much, much more. Some of this data is analyzed in real time. Other are examined after the flight to find out how the vehicle performed. You can imagine the enormous archives that this gives Arianespace with over 200 flights and a wealth of technical data. DDO has just called out confirmation, extinction and separation of the lower stage. You can see how that looks up there, and ignition of the upper stage. We're into the second half of the mission, and with that milestone, Claude Berna has arrived. Claude is Vega Program Director for Arianespace in French Guiana. Welcome.
Thank you very much for welcoming me. I'm very happy to join the party. Good evening, everyone.
Tell us right away, I got to put you to work. What's the role of the upper stage?
So the upper stage is the one which brings the satellites to the correct position on the transfer orbit just before the separation from the launcher.
Because Ariane does not put the satellites into her final orbit.
No.
Right? It goes into a transfer orbit. More of the mission with Claude Berna in a moment, but for now, the latest news from Arianespace.
October 12th, from Europe's spaceport, the third Soyuz to lift off from her new home in French Guiana successfully launched the last 2 in-orbit validation satellites for Galileo. Delivered for the European Space Agency, these satellites checked the Galileo system and technology, giving the green light to begin launching next year the full fleet of Europe's own global positioning system. Activities for the second Vega launch are underway. The light launcher flew for the first time in February. Her second and third stages left Italy by boat for French Guiana November 6th, and when they arrive, the campaign begins.
In October, Jean-Yves Le Gall paid a visit to clients and held a press conference in Australia to consolidate the Arianespace market share in the Asia-Pacific region.
Arianespace was present at the 50th anniversary of Air Liquide's Sassenage facilities in eastern France with France's Minister for Research. Air Liquide is world leader in supplying industrial gases and services and a major player in Europe's space effort. A new president has been elected to the French Parliamentary Space Council, Senator Bertrand Aubin. This group, which includes lawmakers from across the nation, informs France's legislative arm on goings-on in the space sector and has a big say in political decisions affecting space.
Arianespace signed a contract with the Indian Space Agency for launch of 2 new satellites, GSAT 7 and INSAT 3D. These 2 satellites are due to be launched in 2013 from the Guyana Space Base.
Claude, the big change this year at the base is that we have 3 launchers instead of 1. I think people want to know how Arianespace is organized now to launch 3 different vehicles.
Yeah, and we have increased the rate of launches from 2011 by adding the 2 new launch vehicles. So 7 Ariane 5 launches are expected this year, 2 Soyuz, and we performed the Vega maiden flight in February.
So the rhythm is picking up, and meanwhile the trajectory and the propulsion all is normal on board Ariane. More from Claude after this, a look at EUTELSAT and the company's long relationship with Arianespace with Mission Director Andrew Lindley.
It's a pleasure to make this video today because I know that when you'll be watching it, we'll be coming to the end of more than 2.5 years of work on EUTELSAT 21B by the teams of EUTELSAT, Thales Alenia Space, Arianespace, and the Centre Spatial Guyanais, who've been involved in the definition, design, construction, test and preparation of EUTELSAT 21B for launch. I'd like to thank the hundreds, if not thousands of people from these organisations and their subcontractors for making it possible to arrive at this point close to the beginning of life of EUTELSAT 21B. It's required a lot of hard work to get here, and there's still more to come with the launch, orbit raising, the in-orbit test, and of course the many years of operation. One of the best things about the space industry is that you get to work with people who are not only highly skilled but are enthusiastic and enjoy what they're doing. The EUTELSAT 21B program has been no exception, and it has been especially evident during the launch campaign, where there's been a real team spirit between the different organisations to work together to get EUTELSAT 21B integrated onto Ariane 5 and ready for launch. I'm proud to be a part of it, and I'm looking forward, as I'm sure you are, to see the confirmation of the results of everybody's efforts.
I was just saying that the different companies manufacturing the launcher stages kick-started the new, faster launch rhythm. As an example, Regulus, builders of boosters with the use of 4 casting pits, is now capable of building in a year all the elements for 7 pairs of Ariane 5 boosters and the 2 Vega first stages. So the Arianespace teams are also trained to work on Ariane 5, Soyuz and Vega launch campaign operations. This is not easy, but we are close to succeeding this year with, after this flight, only one more Ariane 5 and 1 more Soyuz to go.
Our next film gives us a look at Thales Alenia Space, builders of EUTELSAT 21B.
Good evening to everyone. Everybody at Thales Alenia Space is very proud to be involved in this milestone for EUTELSAT 21B. It has been part of our lives since mid-2010, when we started construction, and we feel very attached to it. EUTELSAT 21B will replace EUTELSAT 21A, increasing capacity and offering important services across a wide footprint stretching from Europe, North Africa, Middle East to Asia. As always, it has been a great honor to work with EUTELSAT. This is the 23rd satellite that we have been for this operator, and it will be followed by EUTELSAT 3D, which we are now manufacturing at our plants in Cannes. As a long-standing partner of EUTELSAT, we are committed to help extend your range of spacecraft with this important addition to your fleet. And we are engaged in supporting your sustainable growth by continuing to deliver technologies with outstanding performance. This has been a great campaign. Congratulations to all the teams for their invaluable contribution. Everyone at Thales Alenia Space joins me in wishing EUTELSAT the very best for today's launch. And we will all be closely following the next phases until the satellite commissioning.
Just a final word on launcher production. There are currently 26 vehicles in production for Ariane 5. In the order book, 19 Ariane 5 launches, 13 Soyuz and 3 Vegas, 26 customers in all.
And we are now being followed by our third downrange tracking station, Ascension Island, in the Atlantic Ocean, a tiny island in the South Atlantic, 10 square kilometers, belonging to the UK.
Up next, another look at EUTELSAT, operators of the fleet, this time with its chief, Michel de Rosen.
Tonight will be a big night, a very important night. Tonight's launch is about a new satellite. It's also about a continuing story of growth for EUTELSAT, one of the world's leading satellite operators. This marks our 41st launch over a span of almost 30 years. It's our 26th Ariane flight and the 20th satellite built for EUTELSAT by Thales Alenia Space. EUTELSAT 21B is also the first of 7 satellites that we will launch by the middle of 2015. Together, they will expand our overall resource by 28%. As we all know, as I hope you all know, it's not because we have launched 40 satellites in the past that tonight's event is routine. It is not routine. Each of our satellites is individually designed to satisfy our clients' expectations, to attract new business, to optimize resources, and to expand opportunities over a period of time that will take us into the second half of the 2030s. EUTELSAT 21B is no exception to this rule. This satellite has been designed for our 21.5 east location, which has been occupied by satellite from EUTELSAT since 1991, 21 years ago. Over this time, 21.5 East has developed into a neighborhood of choice for telecom operators, ISPs, government agencies, and video service providers. With EUTELSAT 21B, our objective is to take this neighborhood to a new level of performance. This new satellite is equipped with high-energy transponders. In addition to a broad footprint over Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, beams providing regional coverage over Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia will also be able to talk to one another for fast and efficient interconnectivity. We will also increase capacity by 50% to generate more business at a prime location, serving some of the most dynamic markets in the satellite business. Let me conclude. I want to take this opportunity to send my greetings to the teams in Kourou, Arianespace, Thales Alenia Space, and EUTELSAT, who have diligently worked on this important launch campaign, and also to the teams in Rambouillet, EUTELSAT and Thales Alenia Space, who are impatient to take control of our new satellite after its separation from the launcher. Thank you very much to you all.
Michel de Rosen mentioned 30 years.
Yeah, the company celebrates 30 years since its first launch next May. In 1983, Arianespace launches ECS-1, the first EUTELSAT satellite on an Ariane 1. It weighed a mere 1 ton.
EUTELSAT, you might not know, as of March 1st, has renamed all of its satellites with the company name. So the Eurobirds, Atlantic Birds, all those are now EUTELSATs with new numbers. The exception being Hotbird, which becomes EUTELSAT Hotbird.
Yes, and during the film we were picked up by a Libreville station, tracking station.
Over to Marcelo Lavrado of Star One now for a word on his collaboration with Arianespace.
I'm honored to be here for one more Star One launch. Star 1C3 is our third satellite from our third generation. We've already launched 8 satellites. All of them were launched by Arianespace. Star 1C3 will replace BRAZILSat B3 with more capacity and coverage. All phases of Star 1C3 program were carefully monitored at spacecraft manufacturer Orbital by our engineering team in order to assure the construction of the satellite with a high degree of quality. Our goal is to offer a very reliable service to our customers. We expect that satellite to be available for service in mid-December. I would like to thank you, all teams involved in this mission, for the efforts to have the satellite ready for launch today. Boa sorte e longa vida para o Star 1C3.
A quick look at the Brazilian satellites launched by Ariane. Star 1C3 tonight at 3.2 tons is lighter than both, Tim Hemke, will be hearing from him later on, is lighter than both Star 1 and C1 and C2, which weighed over 4 tons. The 4 in the BRAZILSat B series, launched by Ariane 4 between 1994 and 2000, weighed 1.7 tons, even lighter. And the first 2 BRAZILSats, 1 and 2, launched on Ariane 3s in 1985 and 86, weighed just over 1 ton each.
And Star 1C4 will be launched by Arianespace end 2014, beginning 2015.
Up next, a look at Orbital, builders of Star 1C3, and an interview with Tim Hemke, Program Manager.
Star 1C3 was designed, integrated, and tested in Orbital's satellite manufacturing facility in Dulles, Virginia, and is the 29th GeoStar spacecraft built by Orbital for customers around the globe. The Star 1C3 satellite carries a hybrid payload with 28 active C-band transponders for coverage of South America and 16 Ku-band transponders with 6 switchable channels between Brazil and the Andean coverage region. Star 1C3 will generate approximately 5 kilowatts of payload power and features 2 2.3-meter deployable reflectors and 1 1.4-meter Earth deck-mounted antenna.
Orbital Sciences has a long relationship with Arianespace, having launched 18 satellites on Ariane 5. Orbital is particularly busy, launching 5 satellites in 6 months. 4 of those launches are on Ariane 5. In fact, the next 2 launches, flights 211 and 212, will contain orbital satellites. And to meet our customers' growing needs, we are developing a larger satellite, more powerful, with extra payload capacity. One could say that I grew up with Arianespace. My first launch campaign here at CSG was as a propulsion engineer in 1985. Since then, over many launch campaigns, I've seen the development of Ariane 3, Ariane 4, and Ariane 5, and the continued improvement of the Arianespace quality and services. I'd like to thank the Star 1 customer for choosing Orbital Sciences for their satellite solution. And I'd like to say hello to my family, Allison, Jennifer, and Nicole. See you soon.
Orbital, founded in 1982, today grown to be a major provider of small and medium-sized satellites. 3 minutes to go in the upper stage burn. The upper stage, very interesting, the engine, the same one that powered the 3rd stage on the first Ariane 1 in 1979, then on all the Arianes through Ariane 4, been constantly upgraded since then.
And we have been picked up by our last downwind tracking station in Malindi on the east coast of Africa in Kenya. And it received Ariane 5 data the longest for 3 hours after liftoff. It sees the upper stage burnout and the satellite separations. And we are coming up on extension of the upper stage. We will hear in a few seconds the DDO call out that milestone. Then we will be finished with the powered flight phase of Ariane launch tonight.
You can see our speed, 9.36 kilometers per second. We're approaching our top speed. And the DDO has just called out confirmation of the upper stage engine cutoff. You'll watch the nozzle shutting down there. There it goes.
And this means that everything is proceeding perfectly on board. We are now on the 4th and final flight phase. There is no more power, no more propulsion, and we are ready. And we ready the composite for separation on her 2 passengers. That is what we call the ballistic phase, no thrust. And we have hit our maximum speed, and you can see we are more than 9. we'll start seeing Ariane speed get slower. That's on the V line on the left, 9.27.
And dropping. So with no more propulsion, what exactly is happening now?
Well, just because we are not burning any fuel doesn't mean that many things are happening. We're waiting for separation of the first passenger, EUTELSAT 21B, just coming up in just 1 minute. So maybe a word on satellite preparation, maybe in order. Separation marks an end as well as a beginning for the satellite. It is the end of the launch vehicle mission for this particular satellite, but it also marks the start of the satellite's own life.
So before talking about separation, and you can see EUTELSAT up there, that's the blue and white box exposed to the elements. Before explaining how the satellite's separated, give us an idea of how it's connected to the upper stage.
The satellite is basically a cylinder. It looks square on the screen, those because the solar panel, of course, folded up the cylindrical shape, giving it this appearance. The cylinder is fixed on the adapter by a clamp, which encircles the satellite and keeps it in place on the adapter. So separation is triggered by this clamp, which is cut and loosened. This frees the satellite and releases a number of springs, which push the satellite forward.
And I believe that it's as the satellite moves away from the mothership, the composite, it activates a couple of switches which signal the separation, and this is the information that's sent to the ground. Is that right?
Exactly, and we see this on the screen. So we'll get this information in a few seconds for EUTELSAT. So EUTELSAT 21B is the 10th satellite launch in the last 10 years, making an average of 1 per year for EUTELSAT and Arianespace. This is 2/3 of EUTELSAT have been launched by Arianespace.
The last EUTELSAT we launched was W3B, which now has a new name, of course. Flight number 197 in October of 2010. The last Brazilian satellite we launched, Star 1C2, that went up on flight 182 in April of 2008. And before that, Star 1C1 in November of 2007. You're watching Arianespace flight number 210, EUTELSAT 21B, Star 1C3. We're about to separate in just 10 seconds. EUTELSAT 21B, always a rather concentrated moment just before satellite separation. All eyes on the screens and ears on the telephones.
Séparation du satellite EUTELSAT 21B.
And there's the first good news. You heard separation of our first passenger, EUTELSAT 21B, Ariane 5 successfully completing the first part of her mission. You can see how that happens, pushed away from the mothership, just as Claude described. You notice the people here in Jupiter are not applauding. They hold their applause until the second passenger is separated. Now that's become something of a tradition.
And now that EUTELSAT has been separated just off the east coast of Africa, here's what will happen in her first hours of life in what they call the early or low Earth orbit phase.
The first telemetry acquisition will come in about 10 minutes. Then there will be 3 apogee engine firings. Claude is going to tell us what they're for in just a minute. They will be between now and the 5th day out. Then deployments and final orbit acquisition between now and 9 days. Meanwhile, back on the mothership, the composite is being maneuvered again and spun up in another series of operations.
So the attitude and control system on board, the computer uses small thrusters to perform all the operation, and you can probably see them popping on and off. And their role does not count as propulsion since they are merely orienting the composite. So they have already positioned Ariane in its direction record for the first satellite, then separate it. Now they will separate the Silda. This is coming very soon.
And the Silda, due to be separated in, I would say, 2 seconds. We'll wait for the DDLs.
Séparation du système de lancement double Ariane.
And the Silda is a carrying structure that allows us to have a second passenger. It's a sort of box, you see the box opening now, covering totally the inner passenger and supporting on the top the first passenger to be separated. This is done, EUTELSAT 21B. So the composite is now being spun up in its final direction for release Star 1C3.
All that's left of the 774 tons is the vehicle equipment base, some adapters, and our second passenger. You got time for the quiz question? I think we can slip it in right here. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we are. Listen up, folks. EUTELSAT and Brazil have flown together on an Ariane before. Tonight's the second time they've shared a launcher. When was the first time? The date, the passengers, or the Ariane flight number? See if you can guess this, anybody out there. Once again, EUTELSAT and Brazil have flown together on an Ariane once before. Can you tell us which satellite shared that Ariane launcher or when it happened? You have an idea, you think?
Yes,
Claude?
okay for this challenge. I got an idea.
All right, you have 2 minutes.
Going back later.
You got 2 minutes to think it over.
Okay.
Before we go to our final film. Our final film this evening, a look inside Embratel, owners of Star One. We'll be back.
Welcome to the here and now. Here is the smallest distance between 2 points. Now the cloud takes the shape you want. Here safety does not waver, does not falter, does not grow weary. Now information will travel at the speed of light. Time never stops here. The future is now. Here, our satellites are already transmitting to over 22 million antennas. And now, through our satellite company, Star One, we are launching the C3, a cutting-edge satellite that expands and improves our coverage capacity in Brazil, and also in the Andes, in Florida, and in a zone 300 kilometers beyond the Brazilian coast, where some of our most important oil platforms are located. We are a Brazilian giant, the communications base of the largest public and private companies in the country. We are Embratel. Combining local grandiosity with global size, we are part of América Móvil, the largest telecommunications group in Latin America. Our greatest vocation is to connect you to the world, wherever you are, the way you want it. Because for us, communication, technology, and information go hand in hand. Investing in innovation, we connect you to the future.
Coming up on separation of Star One C3 in about a minute. What is the satellite going to be used for exactly?
You may know that Brazil will host the Football World Cup in 2014 and the Olympic Games 2 years after. So this telecommunication satellite will be put to good use. I can also add that in French Guiana will be placed where all the French athletes will train before the games, same time, same climate, same condition, all to be a winner.
Coming up on separation of Star One C3 in a few short seconds. Again, moments of high concentration here for everyone. Everyone, again, very focused. They've been through these operations many, many times before. Well, the pictures say it. You hear the applause. The final good news, Ariane 5 successfully releasing her second passenger, Star One C3, right on target at her position over the Indian Ocean. Same system, pushing the satellite away from the mother ship. Once she's up, now Star One C3's early orbit phase, the first acquisition will be from Hartsbeetshoek in South Africa. Am I saying that right? Hartsbeetshoek, sorry, where they have their radio astronomy observatory out there. There will be 4 engine burns to get her to her final position on the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 7th day. Solar array deployment and reflector deployment on the 8th day out. And 2 braking burns on the 9th and 11th days. Did you come up with an answer to the quiz question?
It seems to me that it was in March 1995 with one Ariane 4 on flight 71.
Right on the money. How did you know all that? Flight 71. I didn't expect all those.
I was mission manager and the commercial directorate of Arianespace at the time.
Okay. Do you remember what satellites they were?
If you ask this quiz question, of course, could be only one BrazilSat with one EUTELSAT. In fact, it was Hotbird 1, maybe.
Exactly right.
I was at that time responsible for Hotbird 1 contract on this flight, same job as BEATRIZ tonight.
Very good, Claude. I take my hat off to you. For all of you who got the answer right, Flight 71, give yourselves a round of applause. And you get to watch the first of a series of launch replays as a recompense. Jean-Yves Le Gall is at the podium, and I think we'll be hearing from him shortly with the first of the post-launch speeches.
Bien. Donc, comme vous venez de le voir,
you have just witnessed, we have just seen the 66th successful launch of Ariane 5, placing into orbit, perfectly placing into orbit EUTELSAT 21B and Star 1C3 to my great delight for three reasons. Firstly, because we continue with our record-breaking series with this 52nd success in a row of our launcher, reflecting a level of reliability in a league of its own in our industry, guaranteeing access to space for Europe, notably for the benefits of our commercial customers. Secondly, because this launch in Guyana is particularly significant, symbolic, as Guyana is the territory where France and Brazil meet. Two countries here with us, bringing together EUTELSAT and Star 1 are eminently represented tonight with us. And finally, tonight is a perfectly rolled out and has been a perfectly rolled out countdown. I would therefore like to thank most warmly our customers, EUTELSAT in Paris and Star 1 in Rio, who have once again trusted us, well as those who have attended this launch here at the Guyana Space Center and who've stayed on another day, given the unfavorable weather conditions experienced yesterday. EUTELSAT 21B, as you know, was built by Thales Alenia Space and is the 26th satellite of EUTELSAT launched by Arianespace, enabling EUTELSAT to strengthen its leadership position in Europe in the field of fixed services via satellite. This latest success is, we can say, the result of a particular intense relationship between us and EUTELSAT, spanning over the past 10 years with an average of one satellite launch every year. So 10 satellites have been launched over the past 10 years. And this relationship will continue since EUTELSAT has already entrusted us with the launch of their next two satellites in 2013 and 2014. I would therefore like to send very warm greetings to my friend Michel de Rosen, watching us from Paris, CEO of EUTELSAT, as well as David BAIR, the technical director, who's here with us in Guyana, supervising the operations as far as EUTELSAT 21B is concerned. Obviously, I would also like to thank our friends from Star 1 and Orbital Sciences Corporation. It builds Star 1C3, Star 1, Ambertel, America Mobile, and Telmax. Amongst the most loyal customers, as we've launched the totality of their Brazilian telecommunications satellite, Star 1C3 being the 9th in the series. So we are therefore very proud to contribute in such a significant manner to the development of satellite telecommunications in the South American continent and in particular in Brazil. I would definitely like to thank very warmly indeed my friends, Chris Richmond, Senior Vice President of Orbital, and Jose Formoso, Chairman of Ambratel. And I would also like to thank Mr. Paulo Bernardo, Brazilian Minister of Telecommunication, and Mr. Bruno Delay, Ambassador of France in Brazil. We are most honored with their being with us tonight, reflecting the special relationships between our two countries, Brazil and France. Last but not least, as I usually do, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all those who in Europe and Guyana have developed, manufactured, and prepared our launch vehicle. This success is their success, and which makes it possible for us to win the trust of our clients, and successful launches after successful launches to strengthen the position of Europe on the global scene of launch systems. And our order book since the start of the year is absolutely remarkable, and reflects on our tremendous success of Arianespace, which is a launcher that operators the world over prefer and opt for, and this is an absolutely remarkable fact in its own right. I would therefore like to hand over to our clients from EUTELSAT 21B, Mr. Michel de Rosen, linked up from Paris, and for Star 1C3, Mr. Richmond, José Formoso, and then Paolo Bernardo, and for Agnes, my friend, Joël Barre. Thank you very much, and well done to you all.
Oui, donc Monsieur de Rosen, en duplex depuis Paris.
Mr. de Rosen, linked up from Paris.
Donc on m'avait dit que le duplex se faisait avec un satellite d'EUTELSAT.
I was told we would have a EUTELSAT link with Paris.
Bon. Est-ce que Paris nous entend? Mais nous n'entendons pas Paris.
Can Paris hear us? We can't hear Paris.
Les présentateurs de télévision diraient que ce sont les aléas du direct, mais...
Well, if I was on TV, I would say that's what may happen with the live broadcast. So maybe we can start with Star 1C3. Mr. Richmond, he is going to be with us any minute. Mr. Formoso, I think Mr. Richmond is currently celebrating.
Thanks, Yves. Thanks for this reception, this emotional reception, and to be so nice with me and our whole group. I will do my speech in Portuguese and in English. Excelentísimo señor Ministro das Comunicações, Paulo Bernardo, que muito nos honra com sua presença. Excelentísimo señor Ministro da Ciencia y Tecnología, Marco Raup, que también nos prestigia en este importante momento. General Carvalho, del Ministerio de Defensa. Coronel Vega, de Aeronáutica. Presidente de Anatel, señor João Resendes. Secretário das Telecomunicações, Max Martinão. Secretário da Radiodifusão, Genildo Lins. Embaixador da França no Brasil, Bruno Delaide. Excelentíssima senhora embaixadora do Brasil na Guiana, Ana Leila Beltrame. Executivos de Arianespace, de Orbital, e executivos da Star One e Embratel, com especial atenção a nosso líder de Star One, Gustavo Silbert e Lincoln. Estou muito feliz por estar hoje com todos vocês neste evento especial. O Star One C3 é o 9º satélite feito pelo Grupo Embratel desde 1975, quando o Sistema Brasileiro de Telecomunicações por Satélite foi iniciado com o lançamento da BrasilSat A1. Também é o nosso nono satélite lançado com sucesso. Estamos muito felizes com esta conquista, que marca um grande sucesso em la parceria junto com Arianespace. Este satélite também é o primeiro que construímos com a Orbital Sciences. Agora, o Star One C3 faz parte de nossa frota de satélites híbridos que lanzamos para dar cobertura no solamente a Brasil, mas también a América Latina. Por tanto, quiero parabenizar a Arianespace por ese lanzamiento perfeito y a Orbital por la construcción de este nuevo satélite. Quiero también expresar mi agradecimiento especial a todos los profesionales de Star One y de Embratel que estuvieron envolvidos en este programa 2C3. Esta iniciativa única será importante para todos nuestros clientes y para aquellos que nos honran por acompañarnos en Internet y que están aquí personalmente en este evento. Con Star One C3, nuestros clientes podrán se beneficiar de esa nueva capacidad que ocupará a posición orbital 75 grados oeste, particularmente con su alta capacidad de banda KU, cubriendo cerca de los 300 kilómetros de la plataforma continental brasileira. Esa cobertura especial va a ayudar al desenvolvimiento da explotación do petróleo y gas en aguas profundas en la región de pré-sal. Aproveito esta oportunidad para decir a los brasileiros que estoy muy entusiasmado con los grandes eventos que tenemos no Brasil dentro de pocos años. Como vocês deben saber, en consorcio Embratel, claro, vai fazer a parte tecnológica das Olimpiadas 2016. Desde que fue escogida para ser proveedora oficial de las telecomunicaciones, Embratel está muy entusiasmada y comprometida con ese grande evento. Es importante notar que hasta 2016 planeamos lanzar más 2 satélites, uno de ellos que ya se encuentra en construcción. Juntamente con los C3, ellos van a traer nuevas capacidades y dar soporte a esos grandes eventos de clase mundial que serán realizados no Brasil. Esta es una demostración de la visión de América Móvil y de Embratel y de su gran capacidad a través de Star One como operadora muy importante en América Latina. Queremos decir a todos nuestros clientes, especialmente a los que nos acompañan hoy por televisión o por la internet, que esperamos que este nuevo satélite C3 traiga a todos nuevas oportunidades de negocios. Tenemos a honra de tener conosco hoy aquí al ministro de Comunicaciones, Paulo Bernardo, el ministro de Ciencias y Tecnología, Marco Raub, y muchas otras autoridades muy importantes del gobierno brasileño. Y ahora yo gustaría de convidar al ministro Marco Raub para hacer su exposición. Habla en inglés. In English now. I'm very glad to be here today with all of you in this unique event. The Star One C3 is the 9th satellite built by Embratel Group since 1985, when the Brazilian satellite communication system was initiated with the launching of Brazil Sat A1. Also, this is the ninth satellite we have successfully launched. We are very happy with this new achievement that demonstrates an excellent record of success of Arianespace. This satellite is also the first one we built with Orbital Sciences. Now, Star One C3 is part of our fleet of hybrid satellites we have launched to cover not only Brazil, but also Latin America. So I would like to congratulate Arianespace for this perfect launch and Orbital for the construction of this new satellite. Also, I would like to express my special gratitude to all the Star One and Embratel professionals who were engaged in this C3 program. This unique initiative will be important to all our customers and those who honor us by following by internet here or here personally. With Star One C3, new customers will be able to benefit from this new capacity will be placed at 75 West orbital slot. In particular, with its high KU band, about 300 kilometers offshore following the Brazilian coastline. This special coverage will help the development of the oil and gas exploitation in deep waters in the pre-salt area. I take this opportunity to say, Brazilians, that we are very excited about the new big events that we will have in Brazil in the next few years. As you may know, we are in the consortium Embratel Claro to support the technology for the Olympics in 2016, since we have been elected as the official telecommunications provider for the Olympics. And we are very excited and committed for that. It's important to note that by 2016, we plan to launch 2 more satellites, one of them already in construction. Together with C3, we will bring new capacity to support these very important world-class events in Brazil. This is a demonstration of the vision of American Mobile Group and Embratel in empowering Star One operation to be the leading satellite operator in Latin America. To all our customers, especially those who are following us in the event and through television and internet, we hope this new Star One C3 satellite may bring you new business opportunities. We have the honor to have here with us the Brazilian Ministry of Communications, Mr. Paulo Bernardo, and the Minister of Science and Technology, Mr. Marco Raup, and we will, as well as other authorities, important authorities of the Brazilian government. I would like to invite Mr. Marco Raup, Minister of Science and Technology, to bring us a few words about these important moments for us. Thank you very much.
Gostaria de cumprimentar a todas e a todos nesse momento importante para todos nós, Embratel, Star One, Orbital Sciences et Arianespace.
Je voulais tout d'abord vous féliciter à vous tous, à Embratel, à Star One et à Orbital et à Arianespace.
Gostaria de saudar o senhor Jean-Yves Legal, que é o CEO da Arianespace.
Je voulais tout d'abord saluer Monsieur Jean-Yves Legal, président d'Arianespace.
O nosso ministro Paulo Bernardo também, quero cumprimentá-lo como líder aqui da delegação brasileira e grande estimulador com a sua política na área de telecomunicações, essas iniciativas das empresas e das indústrias brasileiras.
And I also wanted to thank Paulo Bernardo, who is Minister of Communication for Brazil. He was leading this delegation, and he really encourages all these space activities in Brazil.
Paulo Sérgio Melo de Carvalho, que representa aqui o Ministério da Defesa, é o responsável pelas comunicações do Ministério da Defesa no Brasil, portanto, também grande impulsionador dessas atividades no nosso país.
I also want to greet General Carvalho, working with the Ministry of Defense in charge of telecommunications with the Ministry of Defense, who also encouraged strongly this initiative.
José Formoso, presidente da nossa Embratel, e que é o artífice de toda essa composição para chegarmos a esse momento.
And Mr. Joseph Ormos, who is the CEO of Embratel, who really was the architect of this endeavor.
Saúdo também meu amigo Gustavo, que é o nosso presidente da Star One.
Along with Gustav, my friend, CEO of Star One.
E que está se tornando amigo nosso, Bruno Delay, e muito interessado nas atividades de tecnologia, especialmente nas atividades espaciais.
And of course, I'd like to greet Mr. Bruno Delay, new French ambassador to Brazil, who is very close to the space activities.
Ana Lélia Beltrame, embaixador do Brasil aqui na Guiana Francesa.
As well as the representative of Brazil in French Guiana.
Que é presidente da Anatel, que é a nossa agência reguladora da área de telecomunicações, certamente também apreciador e responsável pela viabilização dessas atividades no Brasil.
And Mr. João Brezin, chairman of Anatel, the regulation agency in Brazil.
Saúdo também o senhor Joël Barre, que é chefe de operações da Agência Espacial Francesa, do CNES, que é um órgão do governo francês, a Agência Espacial Francesa, que de longo tempo tem uma grande cooperação também com os órgãos tecnológicos e com as empresas brasileiras nessa área de satélites e espaço.
And of course, Mr. Joël Barre from from CNES, the French space agency, who has had a very long cooperation with the Brazilian space organizations.
Sênior da Orbital Science.
Along with Mr. Chris Richmond, CEO of Orbital Science.
Com a Embratel, para a realização, chegarmos a bom termo, como estamos chegando hoje, aqui na construção desse satélite, construção e colocação em órbita desse satélite, o Star One C3.
They were a fantastic partner of Embratel for the manufacturing and then putting on orbit of Star One C3.
Nessa viagem de sucesso aqui, promovida pela Arianespace, pelo espaço sideral.
And Mr. De Rose from EUTELSAT, who was a partner in this adventure.
Expressar o sentimento de alegria pelo sucesso desse empreendimento da parte da comunidade científica e tecnológica brasileira, da parte das indústrias tecnológicas brasileiras, pelo sucesso desse empreendimento que hoje está acontecendo aqui.
I also wanted to express my joy and satisfaction after the success of the launch tonight, because this was a wonderful display of technology.
Eu avalio muito bem a dificuldade e a complexidade que é juntar todos esses esforços, desde o ponto de partida do Request for Proposals até o lançamento e colocação em órbita desses satélites.
I can easily understand how many efforts are needed to achieve such a project.
Que requer esforço permanente, desde os contratantes, aos construtores e à empresa Arianespace também, que coloca esses satélites em órbita.
This was a very complex project that required all stakeholders to work together, from customers to satellite manufacturers to Arianespace, the launching company.
Em que nós depositamos grandes esperanças para futuro próximo, como, por exemplo, transmitir muito bem, ter condições de transmitir para o mundo todo esses eventos esportivos que serão realizados no Brasil, especialmente a Copa do Mundo de 1916. Eu convido a todos os amigos franceses e europeus e americanos que estão aqui a participarem desse importante evento em 2016.
For me, as a citizen of Brazil, it's a great emotion to know that we have one additional satellite in the Embratel fleet. especially when we know that we have many things ahead of us, the World Cup and the Olympic Games in 2016. And of course, I would invite all European friends to take part in these Olympic Games.
Vitória de hoje, e daqui para até o comissionamento desse satélite, que eu não tenho dúvida nenhuma que tudo correrá muito bem, ele abre uma nova fase para as atividades da comunicação baseada em comunicação satelitária no Brasil, que é liderada pela Embratel. E eu gostaria de salientar aqui essa parceria vitoriosa que todos os satélites de comunicações brasileiros, a cooperação vitoriosa que nós temos tido com a Arianespace no lançamento de todos esses satélites da série, toda a frota da Embratel foi aqui, em toda a sua história. Ok. Então, essa parceria, eu quero dizer o seguinte, que a parceria vitoriosa que a Embratel tem tido com a Arianespace deve ser saudada. É muito complexo e, portanto, difícil nós termos sucessos continuados nesse campo.
This success that we experienced tonight is a success that tells the whole story about cooperation between Embratel and Arianespace. The leading operator in Brazil is Embratel, and this cooperation with Arianespace is very important for us.
Eu tive a oportunidade de acompanhar o primeiro lançamento do primeiro satélite da Embratel aqui em Kourou, há muito tempo, há muitos anos atrás, e constato a grande evolução que nós temos aqui no centro de Kourou e na capacitação, na confiabilidade dos serviços prestados pela Arianespace.
I myself had the opportunity of taking part to the first launch of a satellite in Kourou for Brazil, and I can see the wonderful capacities of Arianespace.
A consecução desse objetivo abre agora uma nova fase, que é uma maior capacitação das nossas empresas de telecomunicações operando no Brasil para prestarem um serviço da melhor qualidade ao país.
Now this is the beginning of a new era so that telecommunication businesses in Brazil can provide services of an even better quality.
Já está pensando em novas soluções satelitárias para futuro bastante próximo.
And I'm very happy when I see the CEO of Embratel, Mr. Olmos, making an announcement saying that he has new projects in the pipeline to develop satellite businesses in Brazil.
Futuro importante, otimista e acredita no futuro do país.
This shows that he has an optimistic vision of the future, that he has faith in our country,
nessa
faith in
nova
our
fase,
future.
grandes oportunidades de desenvolvermos cada vez mais essas atividades no Brasil, e eu confio na Embratel que continue liderando esses esforços, continue também aprofundando as suas parcerias com a Arianespace e outras empresas internacionais importantes.
In this new era, I have faith in the role of Embratel, and I'm confident they will increase their capacities and they will continue their partnership with Arianespace.
Excepcional, futuro importante, longa vida para esses satélites e para os que virão, para que a Embratel continue, então, tendo condições de prestar esse serviço ao país.
And I wish a beautiful future to these satellites and I know that they will give many services to our country. And I want to thank and congratulate the high quality of services as provided by both Arianespace and Orbital Science.
Dedicada dessas empresas, porque toda vez que o governo brasileiro cooperou com o governo francês nessa área espacial, nós tivemos sempre muito sucesso.
And I've always said it was important to have dedicated partnership, and each time we had such a partnership between France and Brazil, it's always been a success.
Repetindo aqui o Marcelo, nosso líder da nossa equipe técnica aqui, e dizer o seguinte: longa vida ao Star One C3.
And saying the same words as Marcelo Lavrado, Chief Technical Officer here in Kourou, I would say long life to Star One C3.
Muito boa noite a todos. Senhor Legado, presidente da Arianespace, ministro Marco Antônio Raupp, nosso ministro da Ciência e Tecnologia, Paulo Sérgio Carvalho, general de divisão, que vem representando o Ministério da Defesa, junto com o coronel Veiga, senhor José Formoso, presidente da Embratel, senhor Bruno Delay, nosso embaixador da França no Brasil, senhora Ana Lélia Beltrame, embaixadora do Brasil na Guiana Francesa,
French ambassador to Brazil, Mrs. Ambassador of Brazil in French Guiana, Mr. Rosen, chairman of Anatel,
chefe de operações da Agência Espacial Francesa,
Mr. Joël Barre, Director of CNES, Mr. Cliff Richmond, Vice President of Orbital Sciences,
Sr. De Rosan, Diretor-Geral da EUTELSAT,
and Mr. De Rosan from Intelsat. I first want to say how impressed we were with what we saw here.
De fazer uma boa visita aí às instalações deste centro de lançamentos, essa estação de lançamentos.
First, yesterday we visited the launch facilities.
Explicações muito interessantes sobre como funciona esta estação e como funcionam os lançamentos.
And we had very interesting presentations explaining to us how these facilities are operated.
Porque nós somos leigos, bom, o que aconteceu? Por que tivemos que adiar? Nós não gostaríamos de sair daqui, né, ministro Raupp, com famas de pé frios. Esses caras vieram do Brasil aqui para ver o lançamento e acabou não dando certo.
And yesterday, as the launch was postponed by one day, we hoped that this wouldn't be bad luck.
Do Ministério das Comunicações, do Ministério de Ciência e Tecnologia, também do Ministério da Defesa, a Anatel, que está aqui.
But it really was worth our while, because we came here with a delegation from the Ministry of Defense, a delegation from the Ministry of Science and Research, and a delegation from the Ministry of Telecommunication in Brazil.
Da Agência Espacial Francesa, da Embratel, da EUTELSAT, Ou seja, estávamos aqui muito envolvidos e torcendo para que essa missão fosse bem sucedida.
And we are all very enthusiastic as all the other partners, Arianespace, Embratel, Orbital, and we were very committed to the success of this event. And I'm very reassured now that I see that everything is green on the board, mission accomplished. We are going to fly back to Brazil very soon.
Relatar no nosso governo para os nossos colegas, para os nossos superiores aí dentro de cada ministério, inclusive para a nossa presidenta da República.
We will tell all our colleagues and to our president
funciona todo esse trabalho que os senhores fazem.
How successful this mission was, how successful the launch was, and we will also share with them the high quality of work that you achieve here.
Continue fazendo esse belo trabalho, que continue exercendo as suas atividades no Brasil com todo esse sucesso. Nós dependemos muito no Brasil de tecnologia de satélites, talvez mais do que em outros países, pelas dimensões, pelas condições geográficas do nosso país. Portanto, esse lançamento, com certeza, nos trará muito mais benefícios a partir do seu sucesso.
Et je voulais aussi souhaiter à Embratel.
I also wanted to say that we all wish success to Embratel in their endeavors, because satellite technologies is very important for such a large country as Brazil.
Grande abraço.
So I want to congratulate you all.
Monsieur de Rosen va s'exprimer à présent.
We will now listen to Mr. de Rosen.
Oui, nous vous entendons. Oui,
Jean-Yves, can you hear me? Yes, we can. Loud and clear. Jean-Yves, can you raise your right hand if you hear me? I can hear you. Okay, that's great.
Speak English because of your other guests. I want you to know that in Paris we listen to all the speeches very carefully. We are, of course, very happy with this brilliant launch. We're also very happy because we have just been told that France has beat Australia 30-6 in rugby, okay? Tonight, in Paris, okay? Jean-Yves, this is the 30th year of our collaboration between Arianespace and EUTELSAT. We've had now 26 launches, and we look forward to many more launches, many more years. You are a great leader, and you have a great team around you, and we very much enjoy working with Arianespace. I want to add a comment to your Brazilian guests. First of all, congratulations to Star One, Embratel, for this brilliant success. Second message to Brazil, your new French ambassador, Bruno Delay, is the best French ambassador in the world. So France sent you the best ambassador. To keep him and enjoy him. He's the very best. Thirdly, we very much look forward to working in Brazil. The Brazilian economy has become one of the most important economies in the world and one of the most dynamic ones. And so we are very impressed to see that two members of the cabinet and the president of Anatel and the president of Star One and the president of Embratel have all come. We are humbled by their presence, and we hope that we can contribute to the formidable growth and development of the Brazilian economy. Finally, last comment. We have a satellite currently being constructed. with our friends from Qatar. This satellite will be launched by Arianespace in the summer of 2013. It is called in Qatar SHAIL-1. It is called in Paris EUTELSAT 25B. This satellite will be launched next year, and we, of course, all look forward to another great success with Arianespace. Jean-Yves and Arianespace, thank you and congratulations. Bravo.
Bien, mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir au nom du CNES.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. On behalf of CNES, I would like to express joy, just like the two clients of tonight, our friends, and by our friends from EUTELSAT. And of course, I would like to thank our Brazilian friends and neighbors. We share a border with this country, and this is a country with which we've had a long-standing cooperation in the field of space. Of course, we're delighted we launched Star 1 satellites. Mr. de Rosen said that France defeated Australia in rugby. Well, I hope we will meet for a football game, Mr. Minister, maybe in the final of the upcoming World Cup, and then we'll see who wins. I also wanted to express our regrets for this 24-hour postponement. Be reassured, Mr. Minister, it's not because you were present that we had to postpone the launch. It's because of high-altitude winds that were creating a safety issue. But we had pleasure in having you 24 more hours with us. It was a real pleasure. Thanks to all the teams who made it a success tonight, Arianespace teams, CNES teams, who made a beautiful work with the weather forecast. And trust me, yesterday we could not have launched. So it was a good decision to interrupt countdown yesterday and resume today in conditions which were nominal. Of course, this was the 8th launch in a year. We're aiming at 2 additional launches. It's going to be 10 altogether in 2012. This is a performance we had not achieved since 2002. So you see that we are keeping a good momentum thanks to all our teams, ground teams, some of them being present in the room. And I want to, of course, thanks the population of Guyana, the Guyanese authorities, and thanks to all of you for attending this launch.
Thank you very much. And this brings this launch to an end. Thank you very much, and looking forward to meeting you up again in 3 weeks' time on the 30th of November. For this time is Soyuz launch in Guyana, orbiting this, and this will be the second RIAD satellite from CNES. Thank you very much, and have a good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that'll do it from Kourou for us. Over some fine shots of a replay again. We'll say goodbye. Any last words, Claude?
Oh, yes, please. I was outside Jupiter for the liftoff. It was always impressive to see the heavy lift launcher rising off the ground. The light was beautiful, and during the 2 first minutes, the launcher was fully visible until separation of boosters. Thanks a lot, Josh, my friend. I really like it. See you end of this year. Many thanks to Marie-Aline. Obrigado, Manuel. Et merci en français à toute l'équipe de Guyane Première.
52 straight launches for Ariane 5, 42 of them double launches, 94 payloads sent into orbit, 10 auxiliary payloads. Another Soyuz and another Ariane 5, both from French Guyana before the year is out. The next launch, November 30th. That's a Soyuz. We will be here. We hope you will be too. Until then, on behalf of everybody here at the Space Base, Joshua Jampel saying thanks for being with us. Special thanks to Claude Bernard, my old friend. Hope you enjoyed it. We did. We look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye, everybody.